A little over 200 years ago, one of the most radical experiments in human history took place. An entire people overthrew a tyrant and decided that they could govern themselves. This experiment was called democracy, a word taken from ancient Greece, and it translates to rule by the people. It was such a powerful idea that other countries tried it as well, and it's now still the dominant form of governance in the world. Let's do an experiment of our own. Ask yourself if you think democracy is a good idea and you'd like to live in one. Now ask yourself if you think you're actually living in a well-functioning democracy. If there's a discrepancy, it's because we love the ideal, but our politics is broken. It's simply not living up to the level of fairness, justice, and public engagement that would deliver policies and solutions that people want. Our institutions are dysfunctional, fragile, brittle, rigid. They're not able to keep up with the pace of social change. So it's nearly impossible for them to deal with the challenges or seize the opportunities. I'm going to assume you're listening because you haven't given up on democracy and you'd like to fix it. I've got good news. It's an easy fix because the problem is just a failure of imagination. We need a way to put diverse voices in or close to our legislatures who will make considered, evidence-based policy choices to everybody's benefit. Isn't that what we're supposed to be doing now through elections? Oh, maybe not so easy. At the beginning of his House Divided speech, Abraham Lincoln dropped a bit of advice so clear, so obvious, so second nature, that it's the easiest thing in the world to forget. He said, "If we could first know where we are and whither we are tending, we could better judge what to do and how to do it." So where are we? If we can't look that simple question square in the face and answer it, we have nowhere to go. So I'm going to tell you where we are. But I have to warn you that it's a place so uncomfortable, so contrary to everything you've grown up with and been taught to believe about this country, that you would do anything to turn away from a truth as plain as the nose on your face. We live in an oligarchy caused by elections. Let's call it an electocracy. As we know, the electoral process has been corrupted by, pick your villain, money, ideology, ambition, careerism, partisan politics, voter suppression, horse race, journalism, disinformation, threats of violence, you name it. Politicians and the people talk at each other. They don't listen to us, and we don't listen to them. We're disengaged from each other. Okay, fine. Elections are the problem. So let's fix elections. But hold on. This is a bigger problem than elections. What if there's a better way to give diverse voices influence to make those evidence-based laws and policies that benefit everyone? What if we had a form of public engagement that instead of turning people off was captivating and drew people in? Governance that engaged people by reaching out to them. And now I'm going to ask you to make that radical imaginative leap. What if, instead of getting the rot out of elections, we got elections out of democracy? This is not a new idea. This is an idea that the inventors of democracy, the Athenian Greeks, had 2,500 years ago. They mistrusted elections for all the reasons we do. They didn't try to fix them because they regarded them as inherently corrupt, inevitable prey of moneyed interests and personal ambition. Instead, their system reached out and chose most of their political officials by lot, which sidestepped the problem and brought everyday people to the center of governance. It wasn't perfect. Women weren't included. But a pretty successful governance it was, which created the foundational conditions for Western philosophy and science. This is a claritarian, a democracy machine. All the citizens had a little card they put in a slot, and they all had an equal chance of being selected. It's an idea that's come down to us in the jury system. Those cards, they've been found in ancient graves. They were so important that people wanted to take them into the next world. So what happens when you choose by lot? You get a room full of people that looks like the population. Half women, 14% people of color, some young, some old, very few rich people, very few politicians, some smart people, some dumb people, but nobody that was put up for this. No one who got there by being ambitious or by paying for it or by gerrymandering or making promises or disinformation. No special interests or the usual suspects with axes to grind. Just independent, ordinary people like you. And even if you wouldn't be chosen, someone like you would be. Can you trust random people? We have enough experience to know that when you do, they strive to be worthy of that trust. There have been nearly 1,000 assemblies selected by lot internationally over the past few decades, deciding complex public issues that have stymied elected bodies. These assemblies studied problems, were informed by experts who were on tap but not on top. They listened to advocates on all sides, and then they deliberated among themselves in a structured, facilitated process where all voices were heard to bring out the best ideas. These assemblies didn't debate. They didn't shout. Nobody cared about getting elected or gaining power or scoring political points. They were ordinary people sitting down as themselves, listening, thinking, observing, sharing, getting to yes. Most of the time, their recommendations were accepted by the convening bodies, because when you do this, what you get is better policies that actually depolarize people. We call these panels civic assemblies or citizens' assemblies. They can be advisory to political bodies, or they can be invested with decision-making power. They're sudden communities of democracy. They don't depend on any heroic figure telling them what to do. Unlike panels of experts, they have too much diversity to be subject to groupthink. They figure it out for themselves. They're paid for their time. When they've solved the problem, they go home. They don't last long enough to be bribed. I want to end with a story. That's Adam Michnik, a Polish political philosopher. The poem was written by Juan Ramon Jimenez. I'll read it. I have a feeling that my boat has struck down there in the depths against a great thing, and nothing happens. Nothing. Silence. Waves. Nothing happens? Or has everything happened? And are we standing now, quietly, in the new life? Some years ago, when Poland was still behind the Iron Curtain, a movement for Polish independence arose. It was called Solidarity. The leaders of Solidarity knew they could not prevail against Russian tanks, so they took a radical, imaginative leap. They said, "Your tanks don't matter. We are simply going to act as if we are already living in the new reality of Polish freedom." They organized on that basis, proceeded as though the armed force had no authority, and electrified the nation. They broke the back of Soviet power in Poland. You can look it up. That's the magic of as if. That's what civic assemblies are. They're a radical act of imagination as simple as 1, 2, 3. 1. Democratic lottery. 2. Learning and in-depth deliberation. 3. Recommendation by supermajority. This process says to the old order, your money and power don't matter. The assembly sits at a table outside of, in spite of, or simply apart from politics as usual, where the political structures that we're used to, political parties, debate, conflict, authority, don't operate. The panel says, we're going to pretend that we're just ordinary people here, finding the best ideas by talking to each other, as if what we say and decide really matters, because we have given ourselves that authority. There's no tank, no amount of money or entrenched power that can prevail against that simple act. Why does it work? Because it's grounded in the only thing that makes democracy legitimate, which is the voice and will of the people. In 2022, an assembly was convened in Petaluma, California, to decide the fate of a 55-acre parcel of land in the center of town. I want to close with a 90-second video of some of the panelists from that assembly who want to tell you about their experience.
Great process for democracy. I hope that there's many more things are resolved or decided through this process. Ultimately, I think no matter what happens, I feel like the public, the community will feel that they had an avenue for their feelings and thoughts, no matter how minor, from, you know, a ginormous expo hall to a butterfly garden, were represented and heard in this process.
The group is not necessarily the same people that seek out city government to be involved in things. And so it's, I like that. I don't think anybody on this panel will not participate in another community thing ever. You know, like, everybody is more likely to participate.
We're more invested.
And more invested, in the community. And if that continues to happen, like, what community improvements will we see? You know, like, if citizens actually are engaged.
First thing is, you have 36 people, different backgrounds. Most of them who didn't know each other, and were able to work together.
Just with politics the way it is, where they don't seem to want to communicate at all. And I think this is the perfect way to get politics not so political.
One last thing. Maybe you think in advocating for democracy by lot, I'm being idealistic. Please think again. Elections are idealistic because they assume people are not corruptible. But people are people. We need safeguards. That's what lotteries and deliberation give us. I'd like to read the Fred Dewey quote before I close. Power is actually the easiest thing, for it's what we already have. This is contrary to most everything we're taught. Power can't be taken from us. It exists, as it were, between all of us, not potentially, but inherently. It's what keeps every system, society, and situation going. The problem is we can be deceived and learn to deceive ourselves about this. We're told we lack power, that it's beyond us, that we must oppose it, that we must try to get it because we lack it. Were we, all of us, to see that power remains between us, not with others, that it can be exercised quickly to repair and resolve, and that we could withdraw it at a moment's notice, we would reveal the true nature of its home among us. Thanks for your time.